South Point offers all the types of entertainment you'd expect at a first-class Las Vegas resort. Did you know our 400-seat showroom is one of Las Vegas's top destinations for live entertainment? Enjoy live performances by classic Vegas entertainers, bands, and today's hottest comedians, plus a rock and dance floor. You can also enjoy live entertainment at the Grand View Lounge, where you'll feel all the vibes of old Las Vegas. Enjoy the music, and if you love to laugh, don't miss The Dirty at 12:30, our very own free comedy show. Every Friday night at 12:30 a.m. in the Grand View Lounge. The Dirty is 100% free, so arrive early. Go to southpointcasino.com or call the box office at 77136 for today's performances at the showroom and the Grand View Lounge. When you're ready for your favorite cocktail, stop in and unwind at one of our 7 specialty lounges. There's a bar around every corner, because you're in Vegas, baby. South Point Casino has plenty of attractions for the whole family. Catch a movie. Our 16-screen movie theater includes 2 XD Extreme screens for the ultimate in viewing, sound, and luxury. After the show, treat the family to a variety of treats at our old-fashioned ice cream parlor, Kate's Corner. We scoop up a variety of creamy concoctions, including smoothies, hand-dipped cones, milkshakes, malts, sodas, and sundaes. At Kate's, there's something for everyone. And if you've still got time to spare, our bowling center might be right up your alley. Voted Best of Las Vegas, it's a great place for friends and family fun. 64 lanes, a pro shop, snack bar, and arcade. And while the kids are bowling, you can play slots and sip on a drink in the Alley Cat Lounge while overlooking the lanes. For our more serious and professional bowlers, the South Point is also home to a separate tournament bowling plaza.
It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles and Alex White.
Welcome in. It is Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio. I'm Jeff Parles, Alex White alongside. I disappeared for 3 days because of illness, and I can't stop laughing. That's all that matters, right, Alex?
That's right. And I haven't been here on a Thursday in a while, so I'm mixing things up. But
I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't know what day it was when I woke up today. If you told me it was Tuesday, I would have said, okay. If you told me it was a week from next Sunday, I would have said, yeah, all right, maybe. It makes a lot of sense. But
glad you're feeling better.
I'm here. No punchlines today later on the studio, so we... Apparently, whatever took me out earlier this week took out our friend Nick Otero as well. So hopefully he'll be back tomorrow. But not only do you have us for the next about an hour or so, Danny Burke will join us in about 20 minutes. He's all boatload of NBA props. How about that, NBA props? We haven't done much of that this go-around. We'll have Danny at 10:20. And then the first edition with Gone Racing. We are back, my friends. Brendan Gaughan, Jeff Motley. Get you ready for the Great American Race, Daytona on Sunday. Will you have your official place on Sunday morning, Alex?
Official place
on Sunday morning for you and Matt and Everett. We'll be here on Sunday. Hey, look, it'll be a lot of fun. Look, when the Super Bowl ends, Gone Racing gets going right here at the studio. Looking forward to that. 12:30 today on the South Point studio page. I think our friend Jerry will post a link in the chat for you at the end of the show here today, so you can go over there and know where to be following for Gone Racing moving forward, which will be live available every week. And after we're done as well, right here at the South Point studio. All right, Alex. What happened last night in sports? What happened last night? And we'll start with really the final giant domino in the Major League Baseball offseason to go. Alex Bregman signs with the Red Sox, 3 years, $120. Opt-outs after every year. So he took the high AVV plus the opt-outs after every season. Boston, it's interesting, 85.5 on a win total, which you told me that didn't move, which a little bit surprised. It felt a little high without Bregman. Now, extra win or two would make a lot of sense for Boston. They've had a reasonably good offseason. Garrett Crochet comes over in a trade. So they have a legitimate ace. Again, they do lose Nick Pivetta. He signed with the Padres last night. But the Red Sox, not quite probably on the level of the Yankees, but at least, hey, get to the postseason and see what happens at this point. About 15 to 1 to win the American League behind us here at the South Point.
I am impressed with the moves that they have made. Like you said, more pitching. Crochet was a great pickup for them. And now Bregman. It'll be interesting to see because I guess he's going to play second, or that is the intention as of right now.
I would DH Devers if I were them. I would just make Yoshida play the outfield. Again, I know that playing that left field wall at Fenway is a little bit of a work. But if I were Boston, I would. Devers kind of a defensive liability at this point. Really, he's gone backwards over the last few years. Bregman, the all-world defensive left side of the infield guy. I would just play Bregman at third, DH Devers, and if you need to play him at first base, play him at first base. Even though there is a hole at that Red Sox second base. Devers at second base? No, right? No, can't do that. But they are the legitimate lineup. Much better, especially in that rotation right now. I guess he could play Raphael. Yeah, I would play Raphael at second, play Duran in center, and play Yoshida in right field. I think you'd do that. DH Devers.
There was a tweet about how well he has hit at Fenway, and I can't find it now.
For Bregman?
Yes.
Well, he's the perfect fit.
Yeah.
Right-handed bat, that short porch with the giant, with the green monster. It's a good fit there in Boston. And good on the Red Sox for actually doing something this offseason and finally spending a big chunk of change for the first time in God knows how long it's been for the Red Sox. All right, let's move to the next thing. Let's go Canada and Sweden in the Four Nations. Mitch Marner scores the winner in overtime, 4-3 final. Over gets there. Looked bad for a while, but the over at 6.5 gets there. Canada wins. The tournament continues today, Alex. I know you're on Team USA future-wise. They play Finland later today. We'll break that down a little later in the show. But Canada obviously gets shorter in the odds for this Four Nations one-off tournament.
And hopefully people actually did watch this game yesterday because it was awesome between them two.
Speed was amazing.
Speed was amazing. Definitely the best of the best playing in this Four Nations. And Sweden, I mean, credit to them to make a comeback and force overtime. So it was a lot of fun. It's really exciting, and I'm excited for the USA game today. Still hoping, even with the USA futures, and I know Canada will be the toughest team to beat, I really would like to see those two in Boston for the finals.
You know, I will say this, for watching that game last night, you never know when you get these tournaments. Like, is everyone going to be full effort, or is this just going to be a fancy exhibition? It looked pretty much like the Olympics did when the pros were still in the Olympics in hockey, which was great to see, to say the very least. And, you know, I'll say this. With watching that game last night, I'm floored that Jordan Binnington is playing over Aiden Hill on the Canadian side. It doesn't make sense to me. And if Canada's not going to win this thing, that will probably be the reason why. Their roster, I mean, up and down before goaltender, forget it. Canada's clearly the strongest roster in this field. But once you get the goaltending mixed in, game on. Yep. Even though we've seen Hellebuck have problems in big spots, better than anyone that Team Canada has. USA in action tonight. We will get to that game a little bit later in the show. College hoops-wise, really the biggest thing of note last night, Villanova, who was a big-time bet yesterday. I saw a lot of sharp people on Nova plus 2.5 yesterday, and they knock out St. John's. So St. John's had now lost. They were 21-3. St. John's has now lost in over a month in Big East play, and they get KO'd last night. A three-pointer at the end wins it for Villanova, 73-71. It was St. John's' first loss in the 2025 calendar year. The last loss was New Year's Day in Omaha, which was a 1-point loss to Creighton. Big win for Villanova's bubble prospects, and also too, if you got that little plus price on Nova, job well done with that upset last night.
Definitely a very big win for Villanova. They did need that one. I was pretty shocked. I was on Cofield and Company and then pulled up the scores as I was getting done, and shocked to see that they had beaten St. John's. I guess because of that run that they have been on, they have looked very impressive and definitely like one of the best in that conference.
I think it's St. John's, without a shadow of a doubt, number one in that Big East. For Villanova, again, if the Big East is going to push some extra bids in, Villanova is going to have to be one of them. Still need to probably go on a little bit of a run to have a realistic shot with the rough losses they had in non-con. And then, you know, from a betting perspective, this one went over nicely. Only took double overtime in Lubbock. Really, I don't want to call it a slog in a game that ends up with 217 points because that's not really fair, but it was not your normal Texas Tech defensive effort in this game. Arizona State had multiple chances to win this game in regulation and in the first overtime. They end up covering with ease, getting 16, but Texas Tech, who I still think is a Final Four national title threat, kind of sleptwalked, but still found a way to not cover last night. And now when both teams over 55% from the field, you just don't see that in Texas Tech games very often, Alex.
How about that Arkansas win? Were you impressed by that? Are you buying into this Arkansas team now anymore?
It's a team they're supposed to beat. They beat last night. They beat LSU by 12. They had already lost in Baton Rouge to LSU earlier in the year. Look, there's never been an argument on the talent for John Calipari's team in Arkansas. Never been a question on that. But they have their work cut out for them. Next 3 games, they go on the road at A&M. They go on the road at Auburn. Good luck. They play Mizzou, who whacked them pretty good in Columbia earlier this year. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out for Arkansas. If they get to 8 conference wins, I think they'll get into the NCAA tournament. 8 and 10 is more than enough in that league to get in this year. But they still got to get there. They still got to win 4 more games. Now, Ken Pom has them favored in 3 of the last 4. And on the looks of it, they'll be favored at home against Texas. They'll be favored against South Carolina and the other Columbia. Be tight against Mississippi State. It kind of depends on where the Bulldogs are. And Vandy's been pesky out at home, as we've learned this year. So
might be fortunate getting Auburn off of a game against Alabama. So
if that game was in Fayetteville, I'd feel a lot more better about it. Since that game's in Auburn, are we allowed to call Auburn Alabama the game of the century, or are we only allowed to do that in football?
No, we are.
We're allowed to do that.
Very much looking forward to that game.
As we all expected, the 2 best teams in college basketball reside in the state of Alabama. Yeah, that's what we expected. I'm very curious to see where that number comes on Saturday, because I feel like that is a dynamite spot at home for the Tide. But we'll talk about that a little later. Alabama, in their usual Alabama fashion, another relatively easy over game against Texas earlier. Not relatively, they went over by 30 points, but a 103-80 win in no look-ahead spot, in a huge look-ahead spot that was not won against Texas. All right, let's go to some college hoops here today, Alex. And we get to start in the Fun Belt. Yeah, let's go. Coastal Carolina and Appalachian State. Usually this is a fun football game. As you look at both of these teams hoops-wise, Coastal Carolina, I don't know again, they've never really been a good, high-end, mid-major. It's never really happened for them. But they're a bottom 30 Ken Pom team. And they've been a disaster this year. By any mix. They've lost 9 in a row or 10 in a row after their win against Louisiana Monroe back on January the 4th. They host Appalachian State, who is one of the few teams that I think has a legitimate shot of winning the Sun Belt Championship. They're 8-4 in conference. Probably not going to win the regular season, but they're live in the Sun Belt Conference tournament. They're 8.5-point favorites today, but we're looking at the total in this one.
I am, and I know it's a low total at 127. I still really like this under. This is going to be a slugfest between these two. Both of them rank very high in possession time, not a lot in pace, not a lot of possessions in these games. App State did win the first one, 74-51, so pretty much handled them in that one. So I do think the side is right. I think you could make a case that App State should even be a double-digit favorite here. You were talking about Coastal Carolina, but the one thing about Coastal Carolina is they do like to play a press defense, so they will try and force App State to speed it up, but both of these two take their time offensively. So it's going to be very low scoring, not very entertaining game, but I love the under in it.
Nothing for me. This is, again, these Thursdays, there's not really there's only one power conference game. So it's a lot of smaller leagues. WCC always plays Thursday. CAA, which we'll get to in a moment. Nothing for me here in this one. Speaking of the CAA, I will just tell you this, a non-play that I liked last night, William and Mary and Hofstra. 1.5 on William and Mary was awesome. If you got that, job well done. Up to 3, be careful now. Yeah, I would not lay the worst of it, even though William and Mary has some pretty big home road splits, and they are at home here today against Hofstra. So if you want a money, put them in the money line parlay, sure. If they fall behind early, maybe you can take them in game, but be a little careful just because of just the way that this is gone here with William and Mary, especially home road, now that it is the worst of the number. One I do have a play on, the one that's right before it in the rotation numbers. Charleston and UNC Wilmington, good game. It's a low-key been a very entertaining league this year. These are the top two teams in KenPom. Now, Wilmington second in the league. Charleston currently sitting at third, one game separating the two teams. I'm going to take 6 with College of Charleston here. I just feel like it's too many points in this game. The big question mark, as always, is what tempo is going to win out here. Chris Mack's Charleston squad wants to run. Teo Sakayo's team wants to slow it down. And Wilmington's on a long win streak right now. They've won 8 straight. That's the 5th longest in the country. They are coming off a double overtime win against Drexel, though. So I just wonder how much is in the tank here. Yeah, Charleston is off an overtime game as well, but that game was played more similar style than they're used to. So we'll take 6. If Wilmington covers, job well done on them. They are a good basketball team, so we'll take 6 with Charleston in this one.
I love that play. I think that is the right side. I think 6 is the real number, but you have to add in the revenge here with Charleston losing at home 85-83 earlier this year. So I think that taking those points definitely has value, and the fact that they are looking up at Wilmington. So they'll be you'll get their best effort here in this one, which kind of correlates. I lean to the over a little bit, but the numbers already moved up to 151, so didn't actually make my list today.
The Summit League, another Thursday staple here. You're getting back into the Thursdays, Alex. So,
yes, I am.
So Omaha and South Dakota State. So the Mavericks are actually in first place in this league. They have been one of the more pleasant surprises in the Summit this year. Not much expected out of them. They're 10-1 in conference play. 10-1. They were 6-9 out of conference this year, and they weren't really overly competitive. Their only wins coming against their best win that came against Sean's Lamar squad. There you go, Sean. See, Lamar gets in. South Dakota State, the Jackrabbits, look, a power always in this conference. Number 1 team in KenPom, number 3 team in the standings. Alex, if this touches 10, I would be looking at Omaha. Anything sub 10, not really interested. Want to have that out of them losing by 10. I think this does get played single digits, but we have to wait to see if we can get a 10. Total's been bopped up 3 points. Not much of a shock if you've seen these high-level tempo teams in this league.
Yes, and there is a game that did make my list from the Summit League. This one almost did, with the way that South Dakota State plays and the pace that they like to run at. The first game was Omaha, with the winner 87-80, so that would get you there easily. Both of them are better on the offensive side than defensive side, so it would definitely be an overplay if I were to play this one. I don't mind the points either, though. I do think that they'll be able to keep it in that 10-point range.
9.5 total, again, getting bopped up, just moved to 154, down from that 154.5 that we just showed. So that pivot point is 154.5 on this game for the total. All right, Alex, one that you like here, another total. Denver, the Pioneers, on the road against North Dakota. Now, both of these teams are near the bottom of this league. Denver is at the bottom. North Dakota is third to last. But this is a tempo game just because of North Dakota, the way they want to play.
And also with Denver, I mean, if you can find the 9, I would definitely take the 9 here with Denver. I think that is the right side in this one, because North Dakota has the worst defense in the league. Denver is at the bottom. North Dakota's bottom defensively, much better offensively. Denver, I mean, they're a little bit better offensively. They're pretty much average and bad on both sides, but there is home revenge for Denver as well. They lost the first one 95-70, so I do think this is one game that they will try and get a win here, with just 2 right now in conference play. First time they played, they did shoot 47% from the 3, and that is because Denver is the worst team in the league in defending 3. So I think both teams will have some success offensively. I do like the over in this one at 152.5.
Bad defenses. Bad defense. By the way, just so we know, for tempos this year, so South Dakota, who we did not mention, that almost made the list. They play UMKC, who plays super slow. South Dakota's number one in the country in tempo. It's the Coyotes. So at least when you see them, that's 157.5. Even with UMKC with the 314th fastest tempo in the country. That just shows how much South Dakota has an influence on the total in that one. All right, Maryland and Nebraska real quick. Danny's Huskers, who will see DB in a few moments, 1.5-point favorites against Maryland. We have talked about Maryland's home road splits all year long, Alex. They are much better in College Park. Last time on the road, they blew almost a double-digit. Well, they did blow a double-digit lead against Ohio State, losing that game. They flipped around, beat Rutgers at home over the weekend. Now they go back on the road to Middle America against a desperate Husker squad. This would only be a play in Nebraska. This is not strong enough to make the board for me, but it would be a Nebraska play. I want to see if this comes back down to 1. If it comes back down to 1, minus 115 on the money line, then maybe I'm hopping in on the Huskers here at home.
I so badly wanted to bet Maryland, too, and take the points here because, I'm sorry, Danny, but they are the better team overall. But I do not like how they don't have one good, convincing win on the road this year. They did win the first matchup. It was a tight one, though, 69-66. But Maryland's got two really big guys, both 6'9" and 250, and Queen and Reese, and they've been very dominant. So I was looking to the Maryland side. I'm going to stay off of this one and just watch and see what we're dealing with here with these Big Ten teams.
Going to Las Cruces next. New Mexico State, Liberty. As we all know, very, again, conference matchup in CUSA. So total's been bet down and the side's been bet down. It's been New Mexico State action from 4-3, with Liberty favored in this one on the road, 133 to 132.5 on the total, Alex.
This is one of my favorite plays here and my favorite type of plays. So I did jump in at 133.5. I still like it at 132.5. We're going under the total. Both of them play at a very slow pace, and both of them are so much better on the defensive side. So that means an underplay for me. Good trends for both teams here. Liberty 12-9 to the under. New Mexico State 13-7 to the under. So again, a game that might not be that entertaining to watch, but I do think that we'll be able to stay under that total.
That's a CUSA that's very compact right now. Everyone's in the top 200 except for FIU, so it's actually been a better league than expected so far this year. Even Sam Houston, who's 1-10 in the league, is still in the top 200 at Ken Bomb. So better league than expected. Everyone but Western Kentucky and Middle Tennessee all in action here today in the CUSA. All right, the game you saw on our thumbnail, San Francisco and Gonzaga. Zags laying 14. Total has just gotten hacked down to 152 over the last few moments. So that is starting to get bet down to the under here, Alex, which makes you like your over a little bit more now that it's 152.
Yeah, I really like it here at 152. I liked it at 153, but the reasoning for the under does make sense to me, and that is because I also like the San Francisco side. They've got revenge. They lost both regular season games last year. They lost to Gonzaga in the tournament, so they have had this game circled, and they have a really good defense. So I think that correlates. If you like San Francisco, you're thinking that they're going to be able to actually stop this Zags team a little bit. I still think it's going to be a high enough pace here that we're going to get enough points. Zags, we know they love to run 48th right now in pace and possessions per game. So I think San Francisco is going to have to run with them. They aren't terrible on offense. They're still in the top 100, 87th offense efficiency. So I think that they can do that in this one. So I like a over 152 in the game, and I lean to taking the points here with San Francisco.
You know, this is very weird. Usually by this time of the year, you know what you're getting out of Gonzaga. I still don't really know what I'm getting on a daily basis with them, which is very out of character for a Mark Few team. Now, first matchup between these teams this year, I think that kind of helps San Francisco a little bit. A little unfamiliarity with the defense this year for Gonzaga. Yeah, I know they're familiar. They play every year, twice. I get it. But different looking squad for the Dons. I like taking 14 with San Francisco here. I thought this should have came about 11, 10. I think San Francisco is a little bit undervalued in the market. So we'll take 14 with the Dons. Gonzaga, look, if Gonzaga wins by 20, so be it. They're more than capable of doing it. We know it. But I think this is a little more of a grinder here. I get why people bet this under. I get why you played this over as well. But I'll take the 14 with the Dons on the road in this one. That's my favorite play from this game. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we get back, Danny Burke, Stochastic. Odd Shopper coming off his Eagles future getting home, and he's got a boatload of NBA props for us here today when we get back. Sports by the Book here at the South Point studio.
Get ready to laugh with Punchlines with Frank Nicotero. Join Frank and his team of featured guests for your daily dose of comedy.
Reno, the Pittsburgh of the West.
Poison.
Yeah.
Poison.
Sports.
F for Falcons, Alex. We were talking Derek Carr for MVP after 2 games. Okay, me. I was.
And the funniest social media posts.
People want to show off their food. Boom. Wiener on a guy's shoulder. It's the dark tones. We bleed blue.
It's your one-stop spot for great laughs and a good time. Find us on YouTube at Punchlines FN. And join the chat live weekdays at noon Pacific for the ultimate blend of jokes, sports, and viral fun.
Welcome back in at Sports by the Book here at the South Point studio. Jeff Parles, Alex White. We're here as always. And now joining us, our good friend Danny Burke joins us right now. Stochastic Odd Shopper. DB, good morning, my friend. How are you?
Doing good, guys. Appreciate you having me on. How's everything hanging back on the West Coast?
It's raining here today for the first time in over 200 days, which is needed. We'll just go with that. It was needed for the wet weather here in Vegas. So we're happy with that. Danny, let's just start here NBA wise. So we're going to go with a lot of props here today. But before we get into that, since we're about to head into the All-Star break with the final day here today, just what stands out to you most as we head into the All-Star break here in the NBA? Obviously, Oklahoma City and Cleveland have been a special level of dominance. The Eastern Conference after the first 5 teams is really a mess. The West is pretty wide open after Oklahoma City. What has stood out to you in this quote-unquote first half, really 2/3 of the season?
Yeah, I think from like a discourse perspective, not necessarily in terms of a reflection of the odds, because the odds haven't stated appropriately, in my opinion. But when you look at the Eastern Conference, all of that recognition and shine seems to be put on Cleveland, and rightfully so, right? I mean, they've been incredible, top seed in the Eastern Conference, and they're playing exceptionally well. With that being said, though, to me, it's just clearly still Boston is the top team in the Eastern Conference. And it's not like I'm saying anything wild. That probably is the public perception among most fans and bettors. But again, you're just getting a lot of this spotlight, it seems like, from the public media side of things that is just really highlighting what Cleveland's been doing. And again, they deserve it. We completely understand it. But we see this time and time again, especially in the Eastern Conference, to where you get this top team is the number 1 seed. And I'm saying this as a Bulls fan, when it used to happen all the time with Derrick Rose and company back in the day, and then the Miami Heat with LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh would always come around and still dominate. This has happened so frequently where just because you're the best team in the regular season doesn't mean you're the best team of the conference throughout the postseason and the rightful favorite to win the whole thing. So I don't think we should neglect Boston by any stretch of the imagination. And again, it's not like people are, but we're probably getting a little bit better price than we should be on Boston to win the finals here and to get out of the East. It's not great, but just because of how well Cleveland has done, I think a tad bit more of the attention has been diverted toward them. But in my mind, my pecking order, guys, would go Boston, then actually New York, and then I would put Cleveland. A couple of years ago, I was high on this Cleveland team and, took a little flyer on them, and I felt like I was a year too early. And then last year, it was, just an utter disappointment throughout the postseason. And now this year does feel like the year, except I still have concerns with their depth and actual pedigree when it comes from them playing in the postseason compared to the rest of the talent throughout the organization of the Knicks and especially the Celtics. So I think that's the biggest thing that stands out to me is just, hey, still, it's Boston's conference, and despite as good as Cleveland's looked, they're not anything that's been putting fright in me and, scaring me away from taking anything with Boston or potentially New York.
To your point, Danny, we've seen other teams do it in other sports, Kansas City, for instance, but it does feel like the Celtics are kind of just coasting and waiting to get to the postseason. Mm-hmm. Do we trust them in the postseason after seeing them get it done last year?
Yeah, and you put it right. I mean, it's exactly how I interpret it. Is they're, in a sense, coasting. Yes, they're going all out every single game, but it's not like every game is necessarily dire for them because they know what they have. They know what talent they possess. They know that they can reach those heights, i.e. doing it last year. And I think last night was a really good example of just showing how great this team is against the Spurs, this new-look Spurs team, right? You have Wemby there, obviously. Chris Paul's been a nice addition, and then you bring over De'Aaron Fox. So another talent boost to San Antonio's offense specifically. And then they come into Boston without Jaylen Brown in the mix. And not only does Tatum just absolutely step up, but Porzingis played meaningful minutes and he had a really impactful game. And then you get someone like a Derek White stepping up, to which if he needs to fall into his role spot, he's perfectly fine doing so and can be impactful on both sides of the floor. But when they need him to contribute offensively, that's the big difference he can bring to the table and the big difference in general that Boston has in comparison to a lot of these other teams. They can really rely on a guy like a Derek White to step up in these crucial moments. And that was also without Holiday as well. So the depth just runs so deep with Boston. So I have complete conviction in them. I know we always talk about championship hangovers, but this is a young and hungry team in Boston with a relatively wide open Eastern Conference in comparison to the West. So yeah, my confidence level is still very, very high with Boston.
Danny, let's get into some props here for today. Let's start with the T-Wolves in action against Oklahoma City tonight. What a great game to end the quote-unquote first half of the season. Thunder are 7.5-point favorites, but you're looking at two props for two premium T-Wolves here today.
Yeah, I'll start with the Anthony Edwards prop. I took him under 4.5 3-pointers made. Now, this line's gotten a little bit out of hand. I believe it's soared up to about minus $1.50, so I wouldn't suggest really going too nuts with it now. But I got it at about that minus 135, minus 140 range, if I'm not mistaken. And the reason being that I like the under. The rest of the market was shaded very heavily to the under, and it's a tough defensive matchup for him, meaning you're going up against arguably the best defense in the NBA, especially when it comes to defending the perimeter. So this line seemed a tad bit inflated for Anthony Edwards, who, yes, has had an increase in his amount of three-point shots that he's taken. But in this particular matchup, I don't think it bodes well for him. So I like him under 4.5 3-pointers. Again, that line's kind of gotten out of hand in terms of the vig, though. Mike Conley under 5.5 assists minus $1.30 is another bet that I do like, though. Now, his assist percentage, 25.5%, which isn't terrible, but for his position group, actually puts him kind of lower tier in the 32nd percentile for that specific position group. He's averaging about 4.5 assists per game this year. And again, going with the thought process that you're playing a tougher defense to where, yes, it's going to be tougher for him to create shots, so he'll dish it off, but simultaneously it's going to be just as difficult for his teammates surrounding him to connect on those looks. So I like him under 5.5 assists. This has been a number that's been kind of steadily at that 5.5 mark. And the juice is slowly climbing up to where it should be. But where I saw it today at about minus $1.30, I thought was a fair price, and I like taking the under 5.5 assists for Mike Conley this evening.
Really fun game last night against Golden State and the Mavs. New look for both of them. Watching Jimmy Butler with the Warriors is quite entertaining. Dallas gets the win. Now they're catching 1 point at home today against Miami, but you're looking at a prop in this one as well.
Yeah, this is kind of a fascinating matchup, Alex, in the sense of we don't really know who's going to be playing, right? I mean, it's kind of just a concoction of random assortments here. I mean, Dallas, you're missing Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, Dwight Powell, Anthony Davis, PJ Washington. There's so many guys who are missing, and yet they stepped up last night and got a very impressive victory over the Golden State Warriors. The Heat on the other side, Tyler Hero was battling an illness yesterday. We'll see what his availability is, and some other guys were also dealing with some injuries on the side. So from the side in this game and then the total, I'm kind of staying away here. I would look at the under because the total seems a bit high for a game that could be missing a lot of scores. And it's slower with these teams in terms of their pace of play. So I'd be looking at the under if I had to choose between a side or a total here. The prop that I did take was Max Christie under 5.5 rebounds minus $1.20. The rest of the market was about minus 140 or worse in my neck of the woods. He's only got a 7.8% rebound percentage, so pretty low for someone whose numbers have actually soared a bit since joining Dallas, but I think that's going to fall back down to reality. Now, considering their big men are out and PJ Washington is out, that's not necessarily going to help us as much as it will down the road, but I still think because of those guys being out, we're getting a bit of an inflated number here with Max Christie at 5.5. Tough matchup potentially against Miami team that does have a really good defense and some good bodies who can grab those boards and take it away from him down low. So I like it based on the rest of the market, especially. So look at Max Christie under 5.5 rebounds. Otherwise, yeah, I would consider this total going under with both of these teams potentially missing a lot of scores.
Danny, was that a concoction of random assortment? Did I hear that correctly? Yeah,
I guess that's what I put it as. Yeah,
that's honestly a perfect way to put a lot of NBA regular season games. In all honesty, a concoction of random assortment. I like that. All right, so let's go to Sacramento and New Orleans here. Jose Alvarado. Boy, the Pelicans season has just been an absolute nightmare. To put it politely, they're getting 8.5 at home, but you're looking at an Alvarado prop here.
Yeah, 6.5 assists. The over was plus 120 a little bit earlier today. And if you can get any bit of plus money on Alvarado over 6.5 dimes, I think that's a good look with him. He had 9 assists last night against the Kings, and they played the other week, and he also tallied 9 dimes in that matchup as well. His assist percentage right now is the highest of his career at 27%. This game has the highest total on the board, so naturally we're expecting a lot of points, which should bode well for their point guard to get over 6.5 assists. And you're going up against the Sacramento defense that's 23rd in defensive efficiency. And in terms of points per 100 possessions allowed, they rank 19th through the Sacramento Kings. So yes, you brought on some pieces like one Zach LaVine, but that's not necessarily going to help you on the defensive side, guys. That's going to more so boost your offense, which actually hasn't been the case quite yet for Zach LaVine. He's been slow to hit some 3-pointers. I think he's only, he was under 20% before yesterday. I think he actually finally made a couple, but still, he's been struggling from deep. So on both sides of the ball, it hasn't really helped quite yet, but I do think it's going to help Alvarado get a lot of assist chances here. So over 6.5, if you can get it at even money or better, I think is worth a play in that game tonight.
I like it. You've almost hit every game. Let's go to the last one on the West Coast. Clippers, Utah. The Clippers, 9.5 total, 225. I think you're still sticking with a prop, though, in this one.
Yeah, I took Walker Kessler under 11.5 boards, minus $1.25 here. It's a tougher matchup for him against Zubac, who we know is just an absolute rebounding machine, 20% with his rebound percentage. Kessler's a little bit lower at 18.5%. The one time they faced off, obviously this isn't an indication of what's going to happen in this game, but just nice to reference. He only had 7 boards against Zubac and the Clippers earlier this year. But all in all, this number just seems a bit too high at 11 in the hook, and you're seeing the market really reflect that as a lot of other books are getting into that minus 140 range, but I snagged the minus 125. So if you could get, I would probably say about minus 130 or less on Kessler under 11.5 boards. I think that's a pretty strong look here for a prop that seems too high, given this tough matchup against Zubac in a very good defensive front that is the Los Angeles Clippers.
Danny, the only non-prop on the board here today, Golden State goes to Houston. Rockets have been a pleasant surprise. Again, the Warriors just trying to make it into the play-in scenario at this point. Rockets laying 6, total 218.5 on this one.
Yeah, so looking at Houston's side, now they may be missing some pieces like Eason, Adams, and a couple of other players, but still their defensive prowess is what stands them out from the rest of the pack. I mean, they're 4th in defensive efficiency, 4th in defensive points per 100 possessions allowed. I mean, they're really great, and that's their identity, is that side of the ball. Offensively, they're spread out with their shot selection, but it's nothing that's going to wow you. They're slightly below average. So Golden State's defense is also below average, but it kind of crosses each other out. You look at Golden State and Steve Kerr, I haven't seen an update as of late. I don't know if we've gotten one, but he said there is a chance that some of his veteran players may be sitting. So we'll see what happens with the Draymond, the Steph, the Jimmy Butlers of the team. And if that comes to fruition, then yeah, that's really going to affect this game, especially with the total that I think is a bit too high at 218.5. Even if they are playing, as I mentioned, I mean, Houston has one of the better defenses in the NBA, so it's going to be tough, especially on the second leg of a back-to-back. Houston's also on the second leg of a back-to-back, but they had a couple days of rest before these back-to-back games. And even though they're missing some of their guys, they're a very young, vibrant team that can step up and really fill those voids on that side of the ball. So if they are playing, I still feel fine with it. If they're not, the number's probably going to move, and I'll be sitting pretty in my mind at 218.5 for a Golden State team that's been struggling all over the place, relatively speaking, on the floor. And it's only going to get tougher against a hungry Houston team that's looking to go into the All-Star break on a high note and a great chance to do so here at home. But all in all, you get two below average offenses in this given spot and a really good defense in Houston. I like the total staying under 218.5, and you get slower pace of play from both of these teams. So that's my favorite play in this game between the Warriors and the Rockets.
Before we let you go, Danny, I am curious. Jeff said you had a future on the Eagles. That was a dominant win over the defending champs. Have you looked at any futures going for next year already? Anything that's caught your eye?
Well, first off, I did hedge, and I was leaning toward the Chiefs in that game when I was talking to Jeff. So I did make a profit and hedged accordingly. Obviously in hindsight, wish I would have just let it road. But that was a pretty disgusting game from the Chiefs. But happy I could cash in some of those rewards from the Eagles' future. In terms of next season, obviously I'm taking my Bears to win the Super Bowl.
There we go.
I'm kidding, but Jeff and I are doing an exacta, right? The Jets versus the Bears. I think that's kind of what we outlined. What we've done every single.
It's not Danny. There's not Danny. There's not a price in the world big enough in order for that.
No chance. But Alex, to answer your question seriously, I have not looked at it quite yet. I usually like to wait certainly till after the draft and then till we get more of a feel of these offseason acquisitions. I mean, the narrative is going to be, can Kansas City bounce back? But it feels like their team's going to have a lot of turnover. And I still think Philadelphia in the NFC is a very appealing choice because of the youth that they have on their team and because of how wide open the NFC still remains. However, we also have to recognize now that Kellen Moore is going to be gone. So there's going to be a lot of changes all over the place. And until we get a really strong feel of where these pieces fall in line, I'll probably stay away, but I don't think too much is going to change from some of the top teams. Just a matter where we could see some of this value in. Man, I mean, I think one of the more fascinating conversations, and obviously always curious your guys' thoughts, especially you, Jeff, because I know you were a little bit anti-Detroit. I kind of feel like Detroit's window closed. I'll say it. I mean, yes, they have all the talent, but you're losing a lot of coaches. This felt like the year for Detroit. So I'm not going to fall into any of the Lions' love in terms of the futures. Sure, they may win the NFC North and can get on a path to getting there, but I think the window is closed to the Lions winning the Super Bowl. You can mark me down as saying that. I think they blew it.
I agree with you on that. It's just so hard to reply. I mean, we saw with Philly last year, you lose both coordinators in the same offseason. It's hard to get both of those hires right. They got neither of those hires right. By the way, Ohio State, what the hell are you doing hiring Matt Patricia? What are we doing here? Come on. Why? And losing Knowles is one thing. Replacing him with Patricia, come on. Ridiculous. But I don't want to say Detroit's window is closed. But I think it's very difficult the way they're constructed where it's a quarterback that we've seen when things start to go awry, they can collapse. We've already seen that with Goff. Now you're replacing both coordinators. Your defense is going to get healthier, okay, but it's still going to be hard. Like Aaron Glenn was a good defensive coordinator. We know that. You got to hit on both hires. John Morton is okay. He's okay. He's not Ben Johnson, but he's an okay play caller. But boy, I said it because Frank made me predict it in the judge segment. That's why I just hit the desk, the judge segment. Danny, I think the 49ers are the team to look at possibly coming back. Now, there is an issue of contract situations for them, but the Rams seeming like sure feels like Stafford's not going to be there next year. The Seahawks, I don't think, are that close, even though they had a 10-win season. Arizona's not close. The NFC's wide open if Philadelphia doesn't repeat, so we'll see. It might be the Packers. Sorry, Danny, but it might be the Packers also. So we'll see. We'll see.
And again, I was anti-Packers this whole year, and it's not even me saying that as a Bears fan. Look, I'm going to be objective when it comes to betting, certainly, and I just still refuse to believe that Jordan Love is this really strong quarterback. I mean, the metrics didn't lie from what we saw this past year, and Josh Jacobs, we saw him even say it. I mean, they need a number one wide receiver, and then you have the other receivers kind of, clapping back at him on social media. So a little curious what's going on with the roster, but more importantly, they need a number one guy, and I need Jordan Love to prove to me that he can be a star quarterback in this league, which the media will tell you he is, but the stats will tell you differently. And their defense has been below average. The Bears are only going to get better, let's be honest. The Lions are still going to be there. The big question then is, what the hell happens with Minnesota in terms of their quarterback situation? So that'll be the biggest benefit to the Bears, the Lions, and the Packers. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I get the value with Green Bay because the NFC's open. It's just I don't want to bite into that because Jordan Love is just not really proven to me based on this year. I know he did well in the playoffs last year, but there's still just a lot that remains to be seen, in my opinion, with Jordan Love.
That's fair. Totally fair. Totally fair. We only got another opening days 7 months from now, so a little less than 7 months. So we'll be ready to go with all that. Danny Burke, everyone, Odd Shopper, Stochastic, Danny Burke 5 on the tweets. DB, pleasure as always. We'll catch up again soon.
Alex, Jeff, appreciate you guys. Take care.
Absolutely. Danny Burke, everyone. All right, we'll keep it right here. Let's check in with the chat. A lot of action as always. By the way, the poll that was put up, who's going to win the Four Nations? And our chat is homers. They're all homers. 54% took the Team USA. So all homers. Or just following you, and maybe a little bit of both, following Alex and homers to begin with. Dean's in there. Roger Long is in there. JR, 14 straight overs for Temple. By the way, Dean, we saw your one earlier, Irvine and Santa Barbara today. I don't have anything on that game. Irvine is coming off losing to UC San Diego over the weekend. 9 feels right to me. I don't know if you have anything on that game, but 9 and 141 felt right to me.
After diving into it more, I really like the 9 with Santa Barbara because I think Irvine should be about 7. This is the first game this year. Santa Barbara lost both games last year, including the one at home. So if we give them another 2.5 points there, I think there's value taking that 9. And Irvine is second right now in the Big West. Santa Barbara looking up at them. They're about 5th. I was looking for the rules, Jeff. Maybe you know this because you do know all this
Go ahead.
Random things here. But last year, Big West top 2 got a double bye.
I'll double check the format. I don't remember. They might have been the league. One league did a total format change again. It might be them. I'm just going to double check it real quick.
Last year, the top 8 made the tournament. 1 and 2 got a double bye. 3 and 4 got a bye. So
that's where we're at. So you said it correctly. Top 8 make it. 5 plays 8. 6 plays 7. The winner of the 5-8 games plays 4. The winner of the 6-7 games plays 3.
Yep.
Then the winner of those games play 1, 2, and then the finals on Saturday. So there we go. Just down the road from us at the Lee's Family Forum in Henderson.
So you're going to get 2 very motivated teams in this game. So I think Santa Barbara can keep it close. I would only play the points there.
I will tell you, both Irvine and UC San Diego are more than capable of making the second weekend in the NCAA tournament. They are that good. And quite frankly, if UC San Diego wins the Big West and they are a 12, that will be your most popular 12 over 5. And it should be. That team can, amoeba-like on defense, really good offensively. They don't have anyone taller than 6'7" in the rotation. Very unique team, that UC San Diego Trident team in their first year of NCAA tournament eligibility since they moved up to D1. Damon's in there, Bob Custer, Nick, Keith. I know Keith is Kyle, Vince, Minidar, everyone. Thank you as always for being in with us on the chat. All right, Alex, before we get out of here today, Four Nations. So you bet Team USA to win this thing. And we see Team USA for the first time tonight. They'll take on Finland. Last night's game was awesome. It really was. I wasn't really planning on watching, and then I hopped on it, and then I didn't leave it. It was that good. It felt like Olympic hockey with the pros back in it. We were really, really good last night north of the border in Montreal. Team USA is a huge favorite here today. They're minus 360, Alex. Total's been bet up to 6 from 5.5. I gotta be honest with you. I think minus 360 is a little steep here. It would only be a play on the Finns at $3 here, Alex. That feels like a really, really big price in this matchup.
I think there is value there. I've got a minus $2 here in this game, but I would look at the puck line if you're going to jump in on Finland. Plus 1.5, you're getting still a plus price at plus 110. I think that is the way that I would play it. I also have the total at 5.5, but after watching last night, I might just stay off of the totals for a little bit and see how this one goes. But again, USA, I mean, with Hellebuck and Ottinger, then Jeremy Swayman, they definitely have the best goalies, and that is where Finland struggles the most is that position. So I would tread lightly, but I like the puck line. Would that interest you at all, or you want that juicy 3-1?
I mean, plus 120 on the money on a puck line, getting a goal and a half is pretty darn good. I mean, you could do a split too, take 80% of your bet on the plus 120 and then 20% on the money line. I don't mind that here tonight. Again, USA, I think, what you said, minus 260, what was the proper price? I have
minus
$2. You have $2.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the value's there. Geez, almost $1.60 value based off of your numbers there, Alex. So, USA probably wins, but I'll take a puck and a half very happily. And if they don't cover, all right, well, what are we going to do? Actually, you know, Ryan, we're making Finland plus a goal and a half, plus 120 a play officially here. We're going to play that as soon as the show ends. That price is too much. That price is way too much. And again, Finland they are the weakest of the 4 teams in this tournament, but they're still really darn good. Still really darn good. A team that is capable, if this was an Olympic setting, capable of winning a gold medal in hockey, to say the very least. By the way, Olympics a year away, by the way, in Italy. Be a pretty good Olympics to go to, by the way. If you wanted to go up to Milan and Cortina d'Ampezzo, up there in the northern area of Italia. All right, Alex, I just want to bring up one non-betting thing real quick, and I apologize for bringing a non-betting thing up because the Jets officially announced that Aaron Rodgers won't return next year. As the resident Jet fan on the desk when Vinny's not here, I think the move is correct. If you just watched the games, forget like the final numbers, looked like he had a reasonable season. If you dive deeper into those numbers, Aaron Rodgers was bottom 10 in most important quarterbacking statistics last year. And for the Jets, who are not close to being a competitor, realistically speaking, why bother? Why bother bringing back a guy who, look, we saw the Diana Rossini report. Yep. If you're going to come back, no McAfee, be it all OTAs. And if Aaron Rodgers said no to either of those, why would you want him around if you're trying to change the culture on what has been a complete losing culture for 15 years in New York? Not Aaron Rodgers' fault that it's been that long, of course, but this past year was the most miserable year of my fandom life. Miserable. Couldn't wait for it to be over. You know how bad it was for me. I didn't even have the audio on the Jet games in here on Sunday.
Yes.
That's how bad it was.
Which is a very
I have no idea who's going to be the week 1 quarterback. If it were up to me, Tyrod Taylor is on the roster. He's under contract. Let him be the week 1 starter. If you like one of these guys in the NFL draft him. Let him sit behind Tyrod. You're not winning anything this year, more likely than not. So that would be my thing, but I think it's a good culture change more so than anything.
I can make it a betting angle if you would like. The Steelers right now are the favorite to get Aaron Rodgers. The Raiders are right behind them.
What was I didn't see if there was retirement on those odds from DraftKings because I still think that if the betting odds are correct, he's not playing next year. I just played the whole season, proved he could come back after the Achilles. If you're the Raiders, I wouldn't do it.
It's the same situation as
I think it's actually a worse situation because the Raider roster is nowhere like the Jet roster had talent. The Raider roster has, 2 high-end players on it? Maybe. Crosby's obviously a monster, but after that...
That defense is actually pretty good. They had a lot of injuries. I think the second most after the Lions.
Graham is returned. Again, I don't think that roster is close. I think their coaching staff's good. Yeah. I think Pete Carroll has done a great job building out that coaching staff. Bringing Chip Kelly in, you're paying him a lot of money as a play caller only. Nothing wrong with that. Patrick Graham, good DC.
Yeah.
Auxiliary staff, I think Carroll's done a good job. Didn't love the hire, but we'll see on that. If I would go with top 30 right now, Retirement's 1. Pittsburgh is 2. It would be very funny if that was the first time that Tomlin goes underwater is with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback.
Wow.
Would be very funny if that happened. And then number 3, the New York Giants. I don't think it makes a ton of sense from their perspective because they still could end up with one of the 2 quarterbacks. They still could. Yeah. But I think that's number 3. I don't. It just doesn't make sense for the Raiders to do it. I'd much rather trade my assets and go up and get Shador or Cam Ward if I were the Raiders than take Aaron Rodgers personally. That would just be me.
Unless they are going to wait and grab somebody like Jackson Dart and then hope that Aaron Rodgers can help him. But I've heard San Francisco thrown out a lot too.
I don't buy that.
I don't
buy that at all. I think Purdy's the long-term guy there at this point. By the way, Jackson Dart could go in the top 15 at this point.
Oh, yeah. I think he is.
I think he probably is. I think it's a mistake. Wouldn't be shocked if the Jets were the one that did that.
I think he's awesome.
I don't know how he translates to the NFL. I just don't know. I don't. Again,
do you remember last year what quarterbacks went in what spot?
I understand.
And now watching Bo Nix at Denver.
Yeah, got to get the right coach though.
Yeah,
and Nix got the right coach with Sean Payton. I'm still not convinced Nix is a long-term guy. He might be reasonable for a while because he's well coached, but we'll see how it all plays out on that. All right, Alex. Whiteboard time. I'm being very transparent. So yesterday was a brutal day for me. Chattanooga was my only winner. They did win outright. So 1 and 4 yesterday. So today we've got 4 totals, 2 overs and 2 unders. I'm sorry, Sean, I did not snap a picture, but I think you guys have it for my lower third that we could throw it up there right now. So App State, we are going under. App State and Coastal Carolina, under 127. We're going over with Denver and North Dakota. Liberty and New Mexico State, under. And then San Francisco and Gonzaga, we're going over in that one, 152. And then I'm with you. I do like that 1.5. It's actually a good hedge, too, for my USA. So take the puck line with Finland, plus money. San Francisco plus 14. Charleston plus 6, and then Suomi, Finland plus 1.5 on the puck line. We're going to go with that here today. All right, that's what we got.
Yeah,
you're off tomorrow.
I am off tomorrow.
You gonna enjoy the Friday off?
First, yeah. No, I have been.
You've been off Fridays.
First Saturday.
Yeah.
Saturday.
So tomorrow I'll be joined by our friend Dwayne Colucci, who will be in his routine new spot on Fridays moving forward. So if Colucci there, Saturday be a lot of college basketball to break down. But we're back at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Also, Ryan McCormick might make an appearance on the desk. Might see Ryan. It might be up here for a little bit, giving his thoughts on what's ahead for the weekend ahead. All right, Sean, Ryan, Vince, Jerry, and who did I forget? Drew Dog, Caden, thank y'all. I'm Jeff. She's Alex. We'll see you again next time right here. Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio.